6 separate ways. So there's always for a message to be clear inside of our heart and soul. We've heard it 6 times. We've
Yes.
got it. I got it from you. I got it from my mom. I got it from my grandfather. You hear those messages, and then succinctly they come to fruition. And just like you said, aha, that's what they meant. That's what was said to, again, to help us move to that level of stagnation, man. I can't.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes, but to grow, you have to get through it. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, hands down the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. And as always, I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you're watching this episode of the podcast on YouTube, then you know that you can subscribe to our channel by tapping that bell, ding, 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 and that way you stay connected to all good things Audacious related. Now, we're going to talk about the process of growing and getting better on this particular episode, and it's something that we all go through at one point or another. But here's the thing. Although we all go through it, we're all on different paths. So our rate of development is also going to be different. So it's not about if you're going to get it, it's more when you're going to get it. And those things that have manifested in our lives are going to eventually open up as soon as we actually take the blinders off and expand our vision. And it's at that point, my friends, when we truly get it and we're able to grow. Now, Mark V. Smith is a podcaster, author, and speaker, and he uses his own personal journey of growth and development to help others get to their own better place. I'm really glad to have him on the podcast. He's got a simple but powerful messaging that is to the point and hits home. And when it comes to growing and developing and getting better, he really focuses and emphasizes the importance of why we all need to pay attention to that. Look, he's clever with the acronyms. You're going to hear some of his acronyms and have the hidden messages that are contained within them. Really, really, really powerful stuff. It's a delightful, energetic, and enjoyable conversation that I think all of you will take something from. So without any further ado, here's my chat with Mark Smith. Enjoy. Hey, Mark, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. Such a pleasure to have you, and thanks for doing this.
Oh man, thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon.
This is great. Well, look, this podcast, we spend, just so much time talking about the importance and, of audaciousness. And I know it's a big word, and it's a word I'm really, really fond of. But when you think of individuals taking chances and taking risks, and it's so important today, and I'll get you to touch on that maybe as a starting point, how significant that is, because I truly feel that being audacious and taking risks and being bold is almost a springboard for all kind of great things.
Mm-hmm. I agree. No, I live by the adage, dare to be different. And that just basically says that you can't, a lot of times people want to conform. And when we conform, we find ourselves stuck. And I always, and people know me, hear me say, Mark always says comfort is a casualty of growth. So it's sometimes we got to get pushed out of that comfort zone so we can actually reach that space to where we are truly audacious every day. Yeah. And there's no regrets, man. We're not looking backwards. We're always pound ahead.
I love that. No regrets. Honestly, the last thing you want to know is that you go through life and you go, man, I wonder what would have happened if I did this, and you lose that opportunity to really find that answer. So I think living with no regrets is amazing. And then I love dare to be different. It truly is daring. I mean, oftentimes that person that stands out, in a room is the one that has a, because it takes courage to do that, right?
And the hardest, I'm an author as well as a podcast host and a speaker, and I'm finishing a series right now called, coincidentally, "If I Only Knew Then What I Know Now." So I dig into a lot of things, man, that I revisited in my past that were indicators. Really, they were true indicators that I like to say had the, like a lot of other people, had the blinders on. I
Mm.
really wasn't thinking about, well, what does this truly mean? What is the significance of this? And now I get it. I tell everybody all the time, my dad used to tell me, it's not if you get it, it's when you get it. So
When.
at some point, those things that have manifested in your life, man, they're gonna open up. And as soon as we actually take the blinders off, take the glasses off, so to speak,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and expand our vision, then that's when we truly get it. And that's when we're able to grow.
Getting it, I think, is a great one because, like, sometimes you'll be in a situation and something will happen, and you're like, you'll react a certain way, and then when you reflect on it later, you're like, oh, that's what that one is. That's what that lesson was. Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's what that person was trying to tell me. Because sometimes people are trying to tell you, right, without telling you, right? And it's
Mhm.
our job to figure it out, and we miss that sometimes. But what I like about that is when you're able to look back and see that, that means you've grown.
Mhm.
Because you wouldn't
Mhm.
be able to see it if you didn't, right?
I always say, six times, six separate ways. Through the course of our life, we've heard something over and over and over again. And that's the beauty about TV commercials, right? You see a TV commercial, you may look at it and say, yeah, that's cool. Then you
Yep.
look at it again and say, "Yep, that's cool. I really like that." It's the premise of six times, six separate ways. So there's always, for a message to be clear inside of our heart and soul, we've heard it six times. We've
Yes.
got it. I got it from you. I got it from my mom. I got it from my grandfather. You hear those messages, and then succinctly they come to fruition. And just like you said, aha, that's what they meant. That's what was said to, again, to help us move to that level of stagnation, man. I can't.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes, but to grow, you have to get through it. You really do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. You spent a lot of time on talking about growth and the significance of that. I wonder if you sort of share, how did you land on that for yourself? What made what made this topic such an important one for you?
Man, I got the old saying, sick and tired of being sick and tired. We go through it, and it I go back and look at and always do a replay of my life and pick up things that I should have gotten at the time that they happened, but also used to beat myself up for not getting it. And then it became a point to stop beating myself up and say, wait a minute, you got a powerful message inside of your own experiences.
Right.
You got a powerful way to express individuals, but how you want to do it. So you need to. I had to think about what is going to be the best way to convey everything that I've gone through to show growth. And I said, wait a minute. If I use acronyms, sometimes people will get it. They'll
Mm.
respond to it. And one of the first ones that I came up with, actually, in the series of one of my series of the process called The Perfect Storm, was growth. And I said that challenged everybody to really think of what growth was. And for me, man, that's gradual reminder. Obstacles will test hope. Growth.
I love it.
Everything that we go
Love
through,
it.
everything that we challenge with, every situation, not problem, every situation that we're tasked with, that is growth. That's an obstacle, which is an opportunity that is going to test our hope. And we all know, man, once we get that hope tested, two things going to happen. We're going to fold up or we're going to rise up. And for all of us that are sitting here talking, all of us are listening, well, you rose up because you got through
Yes.
that situation.
Right.
So, and you feel better about it. And if you go back and really look at it and you break it down, guess what? It wasn't as bad as you thought it was. It
Mm.
wasn't as bad as you
Mark,
thought it was. You made
Mark,
it
Mark,
through.
Mark, Mark, give me that one again, man. That growth acronym.
Gradual
Gradual,
reminder,
reminder,
obstacles
obstacles,
will
will,
test
test,
hope.
hope. Oh my goodness. I love it. And it's so there's so much truth to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much truth to that because the storms in life, the obstacles, the pitfalls, they force us to question, test, our thinking. Everyone has heard, that expression, don't quit, never give up, keep going, but people still do. Right? It still happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they don't know they shouldn't quit, but the obstacles have forced them.
Mm-hmm.
They've pushed them to, and they've said, "I can't do this." They made them believe they don't have it within them. So, that growth mindset is really what you're talking about here. I think that's so important because there's always room to grow.
Absolutely. And I go back to think about, as I was going through my progressionary life as well, and still am. I'm a work in progress like everybody else. I always challenge myself to do something else is to control that vision that I see in the morning. When I first get out of bed, the first thing that all of us do, man, is we attack that mirror, right? We want to make sure our clothes are right. We press our head. Look, my head is there. I'll shave. I'm ready to go. But also, we form that opinion of ourselves right then and there when we look in that mirror, and that's what is going to transpire when we walk out that door, or we pick up that phone, or in this space, we jump on a Zoom call, because that's still what a lot of things are. So,
Sure.
man, that first glimpse is a challenge of what our day is going to be like. And a lot of times we don't have that support. You know what I mean? Some of us don't have that support to actually get through and say it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I challenge everybody, man, you got to believe in yourself because you are at a brink. And when you get a obstacle that is testing your hope, man, you need to rejoice because that means that something great is coming for you. It is truly embarking on to change your course of trajectory in your life to make it where you should be.
One of the illustrations I give often, and I think this fits perfect with what we're talking about here, is that life. We're on this pathway of life, right? And all of a sudden, there's a boulder put in our way, and it's our job to get up, over, around, through. Because on the other side of that obstacle, on the side of that boulder, is where all the greatness lies. Mm-hmm. We just got to find a way to get, and it doesn't matter what you do. Get to the other side because that's where the greatness lies.
Absolutely. And I would challenge everybody with that story. Is it a boulder or is it a pebble?
Yeah.
Is it a boulder or is it a pebble?
I love it.
At the end of the day, it's truly a pebble because you're going to get through it. I was
perspective. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to a good friend of mine at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Mark, what is the biggest thing that has kind of pushed you to another level, pushed you to that level to where your glow, your gratitude living, others will witness." There you go. I gave you another one. Your glow is going to radiate and keep people in that positive mindset. I said, man, I read something about a 5x5 rule.
Okay.
And 5x5. I said, yeah. And basically what that says is if it's not going to affect me in 5 years, I'm not spending 5 minutes on it. I'm not touching it. If it's not going to affect me in the long run of prosperity in 5 years, I can't spend five minutes on it. So I can't worry about this particular situation. I can't stress about this. It's already worked out. It's not going to be a magnitude in my life and my family's life in 5 years. So as soon as I put that action into play, man, it just released so much pressure, so much stress, so much of everything. And so I talked to a lot of people about putting that into play and perspective inside their life now. And it changes your mentality. It makes you focus on the positivity things that can happen within you.
I love the whole idea of choosing where to invest your energy because that's essentially when you talk about the 5x5. A quick story. Very recently, I lost my credit card got lost, and I went online and someone had sort of put some charges on it. I'm like, okay, I gotta call the credit card company and let them know. And I was with a friend of mine and I had the phone on speaker and I was doing some other things, and I was on hold. And I'm on hold, and I must have been there for like 15 minutes. And the person finally came on the line and they said, "Hi, Mr. Stevenson." And I said, "Oh, well, this is what the situation is." And she said, "Okay, if you mind, I'll put you on hold for a second. I'm going to get something and come back." And I said, "Sure, no problem." And they put me on hold. And I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this. The phone suddenly disconnected. right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means I had to get back in that queue and call over again. And my friend was like, "Oh my gosh, that gets me so angry, and I hate when that happens." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, what can we do?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can still continue to get worked up and angry about it and be mad, or I just can call back and wait again because how much control do I have over the scenario, right? And so it's really choosing where you want to invest your time and energy, but knowing the energy that I choose to invest here, I'm taking it away from something else that could be positive and helping me in other places.
That's it. That's part of that's what we're designed to do, man. I finished a series in the last series of the process called excuse me, Procrastination, the Thief of Time. And I closed with a message about legacy. And I talked about how we're always being watched and being defined by our demeanor. And your example right there is not only were you there with your friend, but other people were taking into that particular action of what was going on, as well as the other individual on the other side of the line. And
Yeah.
I experienced that a lot too. Get put a hold, get disconnected, and I'm human, right? So I do have that element of frustration that starts to hit, but then I think about it again.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What is
Yep.
this going to conquer? How is this
Yep.
going to solve my issue? I need to just calm down, take it another step because you got to retrain your mind, as you
Yeah.
said before, and think about there's a bigger picture coming in here. Is this
Yeah.
teaching me patience? Is this teaching me how to react to this particular situation that will occur later on down the line? So
Yeah.
again, it's not just about seeing, it's about your vision.
Yeah, that wide perspective of things, right? And I think one of the things I pride myself, I do like to see the big picture. And when you focus on the big picture, those little pebbles don't matter no more, right? They don't make it. They don't make it's almost like imagine driving to work and someone cuts you off and whatever. Is that going to mess up your whole day? If 5 o'clock that day you're still upset what happened 9 a.m. that morning, like there's something wrong.
Right. That's right. That's right. You can't allow. And again, I talk a lot about how allowing societal influences to dictate your mentality,
Yeah.
and you cannot allow that because I mean, for all intents and purposes, the majority of the information that we see in society, the news, it's going to be a negative connotation anyway. So why are we spending so much time doing it? My wife and I, we have a complete pack. We don't. The first thing we do in the morning is, of course, we get up, look in the mirror, brush our teeth, account for our blessings for being able to wake up and see another day,
Yep.
and then we'll have coffee and conversation. TV doesn't come on. Phones are obsolete. We don't even touch that stuff because guess what? Whatever happened, it happened. We can't change it. So
Right.
we get ourselves in a tight mental space to know that once we hit that door, man, we're fighting against the world, but we're going to do it with a smile on our face, a humble, hungry attitude, knowing that we're going to change some lives that day. And that's
Yeah.
how you win. That's how you win.
And really not letting your path. You know what your path is. You know how you're getting there. You know where you want to get to. And not letting anything deviate you from doing that. And when I say deviate, I mean, there are times when we have to switch and pivot. I mean, that's fine. But deviate in terms of coming off your path altogether, right? Once you can take control of that and you know where you want to go, you know where you want to get there, to your point, you absolutely are winning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, it goes back to creating that legacy, man. Creating what you want to be known for. Create it for what you want to leave generations to come for. Now, I'm in a small town
Yep.
in between. I say between 13 miles north, I'm in Charm City or Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
13 miles south, I'm in the concrete jungle or DC. I'm right in the middle. So
Okay.
you see the mentality, you see the interaction on both sides of the spectrum,
Right.
Capitol Hill, the legislation, all that type of mentality. And then
Yes.
you go to the Baltimore region and you see that type of mentality, that hustle, let's go, go, go. So man, you have to make sure that your mind is right every single day because you have an opportunity to change a culture. You have an
Yes.
opportunity to change a legacy. And that's really the foundation of why I wrote The Process, man.
Yeah.
It's about that. It's really about that.
So I was going to talk about the process. I want you to explain that because first I get it right away and I agree with it. But help give some context to that.
What I did is I went back and had to go. I'm the type of guy that I like to be at basics. Got to have a foundation.
Yeah.
You got to have a foundation before you can move anywhere. A stepping stone, a springboard,
Yeah.
something to always revisit. So, I thought about the time, the some of my lowest points inside of my life, and I said, well, each time of it, what happened? Was there something? We talked a little bit about it. Were there subliminal messages that were hit inside of them? And they were messages on my mentality. There's messages on respect. There's messages on integrity. There's messages on all those things that are a core. So in 2018. I lost my job. And that's not uncommon for anybody in today's society. Most
Right.
everybody has lost a job.
Right.
But I think it hit me. I allowed it. And let me tell you, I allowed it to hit me a lot harder because that had never happened to me before. That was a first. And during that time,
Mark, sorry, I started to cut you here, but that's a really important point that you said. You allowed it, right?
I, I
Because
allowed.
we have the choice. So I sorry I had to interject there, but it was
Yep.
so important that
Mhm.
you allowed it to happen.
So I said that there was something more powerful that was to come out of this. And I went through that time, that short period of time when I was went into depression funk because again, I said I had never any job that I had separated from, I left them. They didn't leave me. So that was a big turning point. And by me being a man, a provider, a father, a husband, I felt kind of less than. I allowed my own negative pride. Please remember, ignorance destroys everything.
Oh
To
my
get in,
goodness.
to get inside of my head, man, and get inside my space. And one day I remember, my wife, she's a federal employee,
Okay.
and I remember she was walking out the door to leave to go to work, and she tossed me a piece of paper, and I still have it, man. It says, "I love you. Follow your dream." And for so many years, I had been speaking in a post-secondary education in a career development space. So I
Okay.
was great at telling people how to dress for success, how to write a resume, how to interview. I mean, that was my ballpark. But
Yes.
now it's coming right back to me. What do you do about it? So I sat down one day and really thought about what she said, follow your dream. So I just started writing about journaling about things that occurred back from my elementary days to my middle school days, to high school days. And I said, wait a minute, this is a growth is a process, man. It's
Yes.
a consistent evolution of things that have happened before and are to come. But each one of us, I don't care who you are, you have a process that needs to be developed. So I started journaling, started writing that down, and then in January of 2019, yeah, 2019, I said, dare to be different. So I went on YouTube, very first episode, went on YouTube and said, I'm going to do this. So put some information out, just a little short speech, about three and
Yeah.
a half, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Got several hundred views off of that. And I said, well, maybe somebody really needed to hear this. So I continued on. And I started with just the first series, which I called The Foundation. And inside the foundation, man, I said there has to be something that will be a sticking point, something that we all need to have before we can grow.
Mm.
We're all going to be pushed to certain levels, but you still need to circle back. I said, I like to call it base camp, right? You got
Okay.
to come back to base
Yep.
camp. And I wrote something. My very first message was called Air. And
Okay.
when I first said air, everybody said, "Yeah, okay, air, Mark, you're crazy." And we all need air. I said, "No, let's again. If we're going to dare to be different, let's spell it a little different." And I said AIRR, which stands for accountability, integrity, responsibility, and respect. Those are four core values that we all have to have before we can go anywhere. If you're
Mm.
not accountable, no, at the very beginning, I said I allowed this situation to affect
Yes.
my mind. So that's
Yes.
taking accountability for it. And
Yes.
a lot of times individuals want to blame. I could have blamed that employer, and I
Sure.
and I did
Yep.
at early stages, but guess what? It's still on me. At the end of the day, it's
Yes.
still on me. Having that integrity, doing the things that you know you're supposed to do when people aren't watching, when you're out at the mall, when you're out at the store, when you're in the backyard and the neighbors watching it, or there's a leak. Responsibility. We're all responsible for something and someone. And a lot of people say that they're not responsible. I used to have that. Old Mark had that old mentality. They say, "Not my monkey, not my circus," meaning it's not my responsibility. I am responsible for the young men and women in Baltimore. I am responsible for the young men and women in Washington D.C. That's on me. I can make them bitter or I can make them better just in my interaction. And the last, man, and most important thing that I think that has been lost is the respect factor.
Mm.
We don't respect in each other for who we are. We become judgmental. We become we stereotype. We feel as though that we have the right to tell somebody else what they should
Right.
do, how they
Right.
should act, and those things. So unless you clean that house up with accountability, integrity, responsibility, and respect, guess what? You're not ready to grow. So
Mm.
I took that aspect of it, wrote 6 series inside the foundation, and then COVID hit. And I'm sitting there writing during COVID, and
Yep.
I said, what should I call this? This is this new series. And my wife said, what is it, Mark? What are we going through right now? I looked at her like she's crazy. I said, a pandemic. That's what we're going through. She said, no, it's bigger than a pandemic. What is it? Think within yourself. I said, it's a pandemic. That's what it is.
Kept
She
going
said,
back to
no.
that. Yeah.
She said, no, baby, this is the perfect storm. This is the time
Mm.
where everybody is forced to come together and sit still for a minute. Here's the
Mm.
time, all the things that you talked about everybody being on the same playing field. Anybody that says that they're short on education, they can get that education that they need. Anybody that really wants to compete, they now have that opportunity to compete because they guess what? They got time. So I wrote a series of messages inside that, and growth was in that message inside
Mm.
of that particular
Yep.
series.
Yep.
I left that one after 8 seasons or eight messages and moved to the next one. I said, I have a foundation. We've gone through the perfect storm. The next session is only simple. Where do we go from here? What are the
Mm.
next steps
Next
that we
step.
need to do to build from where we are? I did it seemed extremely well with that one, left that one, and then came up with one that I think was probably most central and everybody really loved was it was entitled Why Not Me? See, we've all gone through all types of things and
Absolutely.
we second guessed ourselves and we
Yes.
questioned our worth and our value. But
Yes.
why
Yes.
not me outlined and says, listen here, I've put in the work, I've been obedient, I've been faithful, I made some mistakes, but yes, I've atoned for my mistakes and I'm ready to take it to the next level. So I
Yeah.
finished that one up, moved into the next to last one, a procrastination, a thief of time. Well, I
Mm.
said, well, hey, if for you to understand why not me, you got to quit letting them things that you should have been doing. You got to get them off your
Yeah.
plate.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
you
That's
got to
right.
get them out there, and so you can fulfill your full life and be audacious as you should be. And then the
Mm.
one that I'm in right now, man, which again is ties all those together, is if I only knew then what I know now. So I'm in
Mm.
series 6 of the process, and there's 8 to 10 messages inside each one of the episodes,
Yep.
going pushing for 10, and then we're turning this into a book because it's changing lives, man. It is really
Well, well,
changing lives.
I think every single point in that process is significant, and you're right. It is life changing. I particularly like the question of where do we go from here, because that question forces you to think about growth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to recognize that the work isn't done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to accomplish something. So I've got 100 episodes of the podcast. Great, wonderful, but where do we go? Right? A hundred is just a number. I can have 1,000. Why not have 1,000? So where do you go from here? So it forces you to think beyond, not celebrate your accomplishments, not to not give yourself credit for what you've done, but to make you think that it doesn't stop. And that's why I love that question.
That's right. It can't stop. There's always work to be done. There's always lives to be changed. I was at doing a seminar about a little less than 5 or 6 months ago, and a
Okay.
young lady walked up to me. She said, Mr. Mark, you always talk about people shooting for the stars and how you do anything is everything, and the importance of always being ready and not passing over opportunities. What is your ultimate goal? And I'm like, wow, she got me there. Uh, she got me there. I said, I said, her name it was Karen. I said, Karen, you know what? My mission is to change 100,000 lives.
Amazing.
That's a hefty goal. I said, it is a goal. I said, because you know what? by me talking to you, you're going to talk to somebody else. So that's 2 lives that's changed. By those 2 lives, you 2 are going to tell somebody else. So there's 4 lives. So it's a consistent a method of individuals who are having conversation about acronyms that you can relate to, that apply right there inside your life, that you can utilize every single day. Now it's up to you to utilize those. I can only give you a message of what comes from my heart. But again, at the end of the day, it's about you taking what you have and changing the narrative so we can heal and be better as individuals, period.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Mark, I look, the work you're doing and the way you're going about doing is phenomenal. The idea of breaking it down, so the idea of breaking it down into a process, I think there's great value in that because it gives you an opportunity to, because we're not all the same place. We're at different places in our development, on our understanding. Obviously, our experiences help feed into who we are and giving us lessons in terms of our growth process. But by breaking it down in the manner that you've done, it gives people understand, okay, this is where I fit here, or maybe this is a strength area, or maybe this is an area I need to focus on. Like, so I think it's really well done, and I'm happy to hear.
I appreciate it, man. I always go back and think about something. We are all going to have trials and tribulations. That's
Yes. Yes.
you can't you can't avoid it. You can avoid taxes, but you can't. They're gonna catch you, but you can't avoid trials and tribulations.
Sure.
What is consistent is how you react to it.
Right.
You can choose to live it and embrace it, or you can choose to tuck tail and run. And I choose to teach people that and talk to people that you are going to make it. This is an opportunity, a true opportunity for you to expand your growth and expand who you are far beyond what you can imagine. This is your time. Why not me?
Right.
Why not? This is your time. Take it, embrace it, run with it. Because guess what? Once you do, you now have that responsibility. You have to be accountable. You have to show integrity. You have that responsibility to share it with somebody else now. And then that will permeate respect all throughout everything, man.
It all fits. It all fits. Mark, I love this whole process of growth, and I love the way you've illustrated it in a manner that's really clear. So I really appreciate you doing. I appreciate you spending some time with me on the podcast. I do have one question before we wrap up here, and I got to know, man. I'm dying to know, how many acronyms do you have?
38.
Oh my goodness.
38 thus far. 38 thus far, and still counting. I mean, they can, anybody that wants to listen to them, and they can go back and find it. I'm on Spotify under Mark Smith, The Process, Pandora, iHeartRadio. I do a radio show on star107fm.com every other Saturday when I release a brand new message. So again, I encourage everybody, take a moment and let's change the narrative. Let's change society to push everybody to be the best you, the best me, the most audacious person that they can be.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's work on changing that narrative, one day at a time, one person at a time, one action at a time, because that's how you get it done. So phenomenal work. Thank you for being here, Mark. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the work that you're doing, because it's important. We all need it. And again, I appreciate you doing this. If our listeners wanted to catch up with you directly, where can we send them?
You can go right to I'm on Facebook under Father and Friend. You can find me on Facebook, Father and Friend. I'm on Instagram under Within Your Process. That'll go right to me. I'm on LinkedIn under Mark V. Smith. And again, it's a lot. Mark V. Smith. Not just don't hit Mark Smith, you better hit under Mark V. Smith. And again, like I said, YouTube, LinkedIn, all those platforms as well, man. Just reach out to me, send me an email, hit my website. I always respond back to everybody because again, it's all about all of us. I'm doing my part. I ask you, everybody, you do your part so we all can create legacy-changing actions in 2022.
I love it. I love it. Mark, again, I appreciate you doing this. Thanks for being here on the Audacious Living Podcast, and keep it going and all the best, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you having me today.
Take care.
All right.
Back we are on the podcast, and first off, I gotta shout out Mark Smith for being here. Again, you're really appreciated your insights, your knowledge, and your love to share. And it was just really powerful how that came across. Also, I think your acronyms are really neat as well. And I love, I gotta remember that one. Growth is gradual, reminder, obstacles will test hope, and they certainly do. And Mark, I'd encourage you to continue to live out your mission, because you're truly doing some outstanding stuff, and more importantly, you're touching lives. So congrats on all your success thus far. When I think back to my conversation with Mark, he really left us with a lot of great points. But if there's just one thing I take from my conversation with him, it would be this. Personal growth and development can happen in a variety of ways, and developing a growth mindset plays a big role in that process. When you think about people who are successful, skillful, or intelligent, how did they get there? Was it because they earned those traits, or were they lucky or gifted? Chances are they spent some time developing a growth mindset, which allowed them to believe in the potential for development, and that learning a new skill comes with practice, perseverance, as well as natural talent. Developing a growth mindset is something that's within all of our reach, and it can be done by doing things like taking the time to reflect, embracing challenges, understanding what our own purpose is, and maybe even writing them down. And lastly, believing that your best audacious life is yet to come. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, enter in your email address, and you'll be alerted every time there's brand new content that comes out. We've reached the end, unfortunately, of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. And as always, I send my thanks and shout out to our amazing listeners, our lovers of audaciousness. Your support has been tremendous, and ongoing support is tremendous, and so much appreciated. So as always, I say thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audacious Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.